Hey folks, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, today we got a big announcement from the Fed. So we had an FOMC hearing, of course, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell came out and said that they are continuing to cut rates, and they cut rates by 25 basis points. So rates are now at 4%. But the big news, he said the Fed will end quantitative tightening, QT, on December 1st. So from the macro, what have we seen since November, December 2021? The Fed went into quantitative tightening, raising rates. We went into a bear market, and then they started pausing rate hikes. And then the bull market started, right? And then they started cutting rates, and they've been doing liquidity injections, so kind of a pseudo or stealth QE along the way, liquidity injections from the Treasury and much more. So global liquidity has been rising, assets have been rising, and the Fed has continued to cut. And now we're at the door of the QT ending here. So this is very good. It means that we're headed towards a more easy money cycle, and it will make capital cheaper by the cutting rates. And we know that the fiat system requires that they continue printing. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to start money printing in December, right, as soon as QT ends. Obviously, right? I think that starts the full on money printing will start maybe sometime in 2026. And usually the Fed is looking for when something breaks. So whether it's the banks or something, they have a narrative, they have an excuse to step in and start some sort of full on money printing. But like I said, they've been doing stealth QE and injecting liquidity in different ways. And obviously, the other central banks around the world have been doing the same thing. That's why global liquidity has been a leading indicator for this bull market. And all assets are following global liquidity, stocks, crypto, real estate, precious metals, right? All hitting new all-time highs. So this all bodes well for assets in the bull market continuing. And today we, of course, saw a ton of volatility. In fact, Bitcoin pulled back, even the stock market as well. And it's what I said at the beginning of the week. Any week or day there's an announcement from the Fed, there's going to be tons of volatility. So we have to let the dust settle here. I think next week is when we can really judge what's happening with this market. But the structure is still in place, folks. Nothing has been invalidated for the bull market. And Bitcoin, despite its volatility and pullbacks and so forth, is still holding key support levels. And, we've been sharing multiple data points and factors about what whales are doing based on-chain data. We continue to see crypto companies doing IPOs. We're going to talk a bit about that today. And the stock market has been hitting new highs. And look, I'm not saying we're going to pump tomorrow. We could see a big pullback later this week or next week, right? Before we bottom out and start moving. So the game here is to be patient and to look at the market from a macro perspective. I know a lot of people are getting frustrated, right? This bull market is a bit different, but once you're paying attention to the data and the facts and the macro and the on-chain data, you get to see the full picture that, okay, despite certain movements in the chart and so forth being different and the delay being caused by the tariffs. Remember, I've been on record saying since the tariff crash of earlier this year, this whole timeline has been shifted. And I've been saying that this bull market could continue into 2026, into Q1, but we have to get more confirmation. But it's looking that way because I gave the example many times. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high in August in a period where it's generally sell in May, go away, but that's because the timeline shifted with the delays and the tariff crash and so forth. And then we had the recent tariff dump and some manipulation with some bear shorting with some insider information. But I digress. Things are still on track here. I'm not bearish. I'm not worried. I think it's just a matter of patience here because the data and the structure is still in place here. So, folks, this is, once again, some good news. We continue to head to the easy money cycle. Now, there will be a top of the market. Maybe something blows up. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but these factors are signals to the markets, and the markets are forward looking. So folks know that if you're wrapping up QT, at some point, not too far along, you're going to go back to quantitative easing, the money printing. So that will drive asset prices higher. Folks, this episode is brought to you by Trezor. Trezor makes beautiful hardware wallets that make it easy for you to safely self-custody your crypto assets. Many of you know I'm a big believer in self-custody, folks. I have been for years. I believe this is the safest way to custody your assets. And Trezor, they were the pioneers of hardware wallets. They started this back in 2013. They created the hardware wallets and the seed phrase setup and much more. And I'm a user personally of the Trezor Safe 5, and I recently got the new Trezor Safe 7. This was a device they launched just last week, which is amazing. It has some really cool features. It's quantum proof, it's waterproof, has a brand new chip and great design, new touch screen and everything. It's pretty amazing. So Trezor supports all the top crypto assets: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Cardano, and many others, including new tokens like BlackRock's BitGo. And they have a software called Trezor Suite, which allows you to easily manage this, and you can buy and sell within that software. And they also have a hand-holding service. So if you want to speak to a Trezor rep to help you get your device set up, you can speak to someone. That's, groundbreaking. You don't get that type of support from many crypto companies in this industry. You don't have to worry. They don't ask you for your seed phrase. So I know that's a big concern of people. Are they going to take my seed phrase? No, they don't ask for that. And you should never give that to anybody, of course. So again, Trezor, I'm a user. And they just launched the Save 7 device. Now, you can use my code ThinkingCrypto, all one word ThinkingCrypto, to get 5% off. Just note that that discount is not available on the Trezor Save 7, but it is available on the other products like the Save 5 and the other things. So check out Trezor, guys. Beautiful hardware wallets and the safest way, in my opinion, to custody your assets. Link will be in the description. Folks, look at this news. This is massive. MasterCard eyes zero hash acquisition for nearly $2 billion bet on stablecoins. So, just this week we reported about Western Union launching a stablecoin on Solana, Visa expanding its stablecoins to new blockchains, right? So all the payment companies, all the credit card companies, all the Wall Street firms are here building, whether they're tokenizing, launching stablecoins, launching crypto trading or custody, they're here. And it's amazing to see the headlines with these big players getting involved in crypto. So MasterCard is in late stage talks to acquire blockchain startup Zero Hash for up to $2 billion, Fortune reported. Stablecoins tied to fiat currencies are becoming a key focus for global payment flows, with projections suggesting payment volumes could reach 1 trillion by 2030. Zero Hash specializes in providing stablecoin payment infrastructure and raised $104 million led by interactive brokers Morgan Stanley in September. So folks, the race is on. All of these credit card companies and payment companies, they want to integrate stablecoins because you all know the benefits: instant settlement, faster, cheaper movement of money, and you have the transparency. You don't have the black box wall garden where nobody can see what's happening. So it's all in the blockchain. And these companies are recognizing they need to launch stablecoins or integrate stablecoins, and they need to leverage public blockchains as well. Now, don't get me wrong, many of them will use private blockchains internally, but they have to bridge to public blockchains. Many of them have discovered that. They try to bypass the public blockchains by creating the private blockchains, and it didn't work, right? Because who the hell would trust the walled garden, right? It's going back to the same centralized problems, but of course it would have a new face, right? Saying, oh, it's a blockchain, but no, it's not public. So this is incredible. Guys, look at the adoption that's happening. You are on the right side of history if you have been investing in this technology ahead of the masses who are not paying attention, to people who are not educated, and that will pay off well for you if you're patient. So you got to be patient. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier is we got companies doing IPOs, and no one IPOs in a bear market. Only a fool would do that, right? So this is another macro signal as to why I don't believe the bull market's over. So Consensys plans public debut, taps JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs to lead the IPO. What a headline. We know Consensys, they work on MetaMask and Ethereum, of course, and one of the largest crypto companies in the world, guys. And it's just amazing to see these companies saying we're ready to go public. And, just yesterday I talked about Securitize, the tokenization firm, which, they're backed by BlackRock. They're going public. So it's just amazing. So Consensys, the creator of the MetaMask wallet, plans to go public with JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs leading its IPO, Axios reported. The Ethereum developer also backs SharpLink, which this week said it will deploy $200 million into on-chain yield strategies on Linea Consensus Layer 2 network. The move follows a wave of crypto firms, including Circle, Gemini, and Bullish, going public this year amid improving U.S. regulatory clarity. Again, do you think they're going public later this year if the market has topped? Put your thinking cap on, right? Also, Kraken Exchange, they're on the horizon to go public. And I mentioned Securitize. So again, if these big banks are backing these firms to go public, right? Do you think these banks are going to say, yeah, let's go public as we enter a bear market and the market's about to crash? Come on, guys. Come on, right? So this is where some of the chart guys who are so hyper focused on charts and don't see the macro market trends and activities in addition to on-chain data, they're missing the bigger picture. So you can't just look at one aspect. Like I can't just look at the macro and say, oh yeah, this is it. No, I have to look at the charts and I have to look at on-chain data. And this is why we started off the podcast talking about the Fed, right? And their decisions and how that leads to easy money and more liquidity because that drives asset prices. So I hope you appreciate that I'm giving you the holistic view and different points of views. And it's important that you not only listen to me, but you do your own research and you also listen to other people, right? It's important to get different points of views. Don't follow me like some cult or something like that. Because I'm human and I make mistakes, but I try my best to point you to the facts and the data, not my emotions, not how I'm feeling, and all of that, right? So, guys, huge news that Consensys is planning to do this. And once again, one of the largest companies. This is one I would potentially look to invest in, from a stock perspective, but in the bear market, not now. I never buy into pumps, guys, because I know there's not going to be much upside, and I'm going to wait for all these things to crash down and then buy the blood on the streets and wait for the next bull market. So that is my strategy. And speaking of Securitize, I mentioned they're going to go public. They announced today a new partnership with BNY Global. So we're talking BNY, the bank here, the largest custodian bank in the world and the oldest bank in the United States, starting with the launch of the tokenized AAA CLO fund that will be seeded with $100 million, our seventh fund to exceed that AUM from Grove Finance, it looks like here. Let me see. Yeah, Grove Finance, part of the Sky ecosystem. I've not heard of these, but look at what's happening. I mean, you got the major banks here. It's just incredible, guys. I'm blown away by this news. The banks are coming in, and yet if you look at crypto Twitter and some of the retail folks, they are feeling depressed. They are giving up. They're like, this bull market sucks, right? And again, you can't get emotional. I understand that you can feel annoyed, but you can't let yourself get too emotional. You got to check your emotions at the door, and you got to make sure you look at the data and all the things that are happening here, guys. And I see a lot of bullish things here, despite short-term volatility, despite short-term pullbacks and all that. That's just noise. If you look at the macro, everything's still on track. Now, look at this news. Germany's AfD urges government to treat Bitcoin as a strategic asset. Wow. Germany, I bet they wish they didn't sell off all those Bitcoins that they did. I think, what was it, 2023 or 2024? I can't remember. But man, what a dumb move by the government to do that. If they had just held on to it, they could have formed a massive strategic reserve. So the German parliament is set to review a motion urging the government to recognize Bitcoin as a unique decentralized digital asset that deserves a strategic approach. Germany's main opposition party, Alternative for Germany, AfD, has submitted an official motion to the national parliament, the Bundestag, if I'm saying that right, opposing the overregulation of Bitcoin. Filed on Tuesday, the motion argues that Bitcoin is fundamentally different from other crypto assets and should not fall under the Europe-wide crypto regulatory framework known as Markets in Crypto Assets, or MiCA. Here is a quote: overregulation of Bitcoin service providers and users in the course of national MiCA implementations jeopardizes Germany's innovative capacity, financial freedom, and digital sovereignty, the motion states. So folks, I've said it a long time ago. Any country that bans crypto or goes against it is writing their economic death sentence because the markets, the governments, the economies will all be running on blockchain rails. We're seeing the infrastructure being built out. Yes, you have your laggards. Yes, you have your naysayers still hanging around here and there, but they're all going to capitulate and bend the knee, especially that the banks and the big traditional players are going all in. And we know those firms, they lobby politicians, right? This is how it works. And they'll get the naysayers and the politicians on board. So it's a foregone conclusion. All right. We know where this puck is heading, guys. Look at this. BitGo expands institutional custody to Canton Network's native token. Now, if you recall, I've been beating the drum on Canton Network. Watch this blockchain. It's backed by a ton of banks and Wall Street firms. It's privacy focused, but it's built as a public blockchain. And I told you I'm going to grab the token for this one. I interviewed the CEO of Digital Asset. That's the name of the company. Yuval Ruse, and they're building the Canton network. So I'm waiting for this token to go live, and I'll let you guys know if I take a position, I should say. So digital asset infrastructure company BitGo has added support for Canton network or Canton coin, CC. That's the ticker, the native token of the Canton network, in a move that could make it easier for U.S. institutions to hold the asset through a qualified custodian. The companies announced the integration on Wednesday, saying it will give banks and asset managers compliant access to a network already processing significant volumes of tokenized real-world assets. The partnership introduces cold storage custody and insurance-backed security and could pave the way for future support of stablecoins, tokenized securities, and other on-chain financial instruments. Now, something to mention, BitGo is also another company that is looking to go public. So again, ain't nobody going public in the bear market and when the market's topped out. So we still got some room to run here. Just got to get through the volatility in the chop. Look at this news. Brazilian solar firm Thopin considers Bitcoin mining to absorb surplus power. We've talked a lot about it over the years, guys, that energy companies around the globe will start to mine Bitcoin to monetize the excess and wasted energy, right? And that's going to further boost crypto adoption, secure the network, and much more. So Brazilian solar power producer Thopin is exploring a move into Bitcoin mining to absorb surplus energy generated by the country's fast-growing renewable sector. The company's CEO told local outlet BN Americas. Gustavo Ribeiro, who is the CEO of Thopin and its majority owner, Pontal Energy, told BN Americas the company is considering expanding into Bitcoin mining, according to a Wednesday report. When asked how Thopin plans to address Brazil's energy oversupply, Ribeiro said the company is mitigating the issue through diversification. He added that the company is also evaluating solutions such as data centers and Bitcoin mining near the load to absorb locally generated energy. So I think this trend will continue. I think folks are going to look to mine Bitcoin across the globe, again, to monetize that excess or energy that would be wasted. All right, final news item here. Paolo Ardoino, CEO of Tether, today gave an updated graph showing that Tether is now number 17th as one of the largest holders in U.S. debt, essentially treasuries. He says with 135 billion of U.S. treasuries, Tether is now the 17th largest holder of U.S. debt, passing also South Korea. And he says soon Brazil. So Brazil is right ahead of them. So guys, we're going to see more stablecoin companies make this list over time. Now, will all of them make the list? No. And Tether certainly has a large lead, but I think Circle could be next. But look, maybe the banks, like your JP Morgan or Citi and so forth, they launch a stablecoin. They've already got a lot of U.S. treasuries and things that they're doing with, the U.S. debt and so forth. And they could back that their stablecoin. So they could easily pop up on this list. But we're in another Bretton Woods moment, folks. This is pretty incredible stuff. It's mind-blowing to see this. And I think part of the tariff war and what Trump is doing is some of the renegotiating with these countries, because we're not as reliant or needy of them to hold our treasuries, right? So Japan right now is the leader, and then United Kingdom, and then China. So China has been on the decline as far as the amount of U.S. debt they've been holding. So if you understand the whole currency setup and the issuing of debt and other countries holding our debt and so forth, and how that helps the United States and the US dollar, do your research on that and you'll figure out why the moment that we live in and what's happening with stablecoins and tariffs and so forth, it's another Bretton Woods moment, a massive change. And it's incredible. It is incredible what's taking place. Folks, that's the news. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Hit the thumbs up button. If you appreciated this content, please support the podcast by subscribing to my free email newsletter. It is 100% free on Substack. Link will be in the description. Check out my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital, and my course at mycryptocourse.com. Folks, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.